Before you begin installation, ensure you have the appropriate PPE and you read the instructions fully. Replacement instructions can be found at galebreaker.com. Check the contents of your screen against the parts listed on page 3 of your instruction manual. Do not let the screen material come into contact with any sharp object or edges. Using the template as a drilling guide, fit the free end bracket and drive end bracket at the required height with M10 fixings. Do not use the bottom set of holes. The fixings may interfere with the rolling action of your door. These brackets have come pre-assembled to match the position of the operating chain when your door was ordered. The door has been designed such that the tops of the guide rails are fitted directly underneath the brackets, aligning with the letter F. When fitting the brackets, it is essential that they are level and upright. If it is required to cut your door, measure the daylight gap between the inside face of the top brackets and cut to the following set of rules. Do not cut the lower flap and bottom tube at this point. Slide the nylon insert into the pocket of the fabric and cut to suit. Push the flute guide insert over the end of the flute in the tube or wind bar to protect the fabric sheet as it's being fitted. Slide the fabric panels and wind bars onto the top tube assembly. Once the fabric is inserted, remove the flute guides. Ensure that the panels are in the correct position, as they are at different heights. Secure the screen in each corner using the 25mm self-drilling screws supplied, ensuring the wind bar protection caps are fixed at the same time. To prevent damage to the caps, do not over-tighten the screws. Roll the wind bars and fabric panels onto the top tube. It's important that when the door is hung, the fabric should come off the back of the top tube, between the tube and the building face. Assemble the drive shaft by sliding the 25mm gear onto the drive shaft. The gear is locked using the circlips and washer supplied. Slide the spring assembly onto the top tube to match the orientation of the free end bracket. Insert the drive shaft into the opposite end. When lifting the roll assembly onto the top brackets, ensure that the shaft slides completely into the base of the cut brackets. Lock the shafts in place with the M4x75 split pins supplied. The furthest part of the split pin must be bent back up around the cut bracket so it doesn't fall out or get entangled in the fabric. Feed the operating chain around the chain wheel, through the chain guide and trim to length if required. Make the chain into a continuous loop by sawing through one link, bending open and joining the two ends. After closing, file away any sharp edges to ensure the chain does not injure operators. Lower your door fully. When the fabric and wind bars are down, you'll be able to check the top tube is level and position the guide rails. Raise the door and the fabric and wind bars will now stack tightly around the top tube. Tie up the roller assembly. Ropes for this are not supplied. Equally cut the two guide rails to fill the gap between the underside of the top brackets and the ground, allowing 4 cm for the guide. The guide rails should be cut to the same length with the cut side at the top. Make sure that the uncut end with the slot and holes is at the bottom, ready to accept the locking catches. Fit the pair of guides into the top of the guide rails and secure with the M6x12 bolt and nut into the front face. Fit the guide rails to the building with the M8 fixings using the pre-punched holes at 100cm centres. Pass the upper catch screws through the locking catch stop plate fitted on the inside of the guide rail to prevent the catch sliding up the pre-punched slots. Bolt the locking catches to the base of the guide rails using the M8x20 set screws and lock nuts supplied. Fit caps to the top of the locking catches. Ensure the swinging arm of the locking catch clears the long slot in the guide rail. Install the chain keep and mounting brackets to the guide rail by drilling two 8.5mm holes and using the M8x16 flanged bolts. The height of the chain keep depends on your installation, but is typically about 1.5 metres. Pre-tension the spring mechanism by rotating the roller assembly in the direction shown. This is done by pulling down on the outer chain. The number of pre-tension turns is given in the table. For example, our Agridoor is 3.1 metres high by 3 metres wide, which means we need to rotate it 9 times. When the required number of turns has been reached, lock the operating chain into the chain keep. When measuring the insert and the bottom flap, measure the gap between the inside face of the guide rails and add 15mm. Slide the nylon insert into the pocket of the flap, and then slide the flap onto the bottom flute. Pull the bottom fabric panel outside the guide rails and slide onto the bottom tube. Centralise and trim the excess fabric in each corner as shown. Push the inserts into the tube and fix using the M4x25mm self-drilling screws. Fix the drive side of the fabric first, remembering to leave a 10mm gap between the fabric and the end of the tube. Then tension the sheet. Secure flap with the same self-drilling screws. Lower your door fully and secure the fabric panel to the top and bottom tube with the self-drilling screws. It's important to tension the sheet sideways before fixing to remove creases. Insert the screws into the top tube by a maximum of 35mm in from the edge to prevent damage to the spring. Insert one end of the bottom tube into the guide rail, lift and insert the other end into the opposite guide rail. Check the operation of the locking catches. It may be necessary to trim a small amount of fabric above the tube to allow the swinging arm to fully close. Attach the locking catch instruction labels to the front of the guide rails at a convenient height, typically just above the chain keep. Attach the company detail label centrally at the front of the bottom tube. In light wind conditions, the locking catch can be disabled. If it's active, disable it by pushing on the disengagement lever. Pull the operating chain to open and close your door. Insert both chains into the chain keep to hold the door at any level. There's a broad range of spare parts available which can be found on our website or ordered through your local dealer. Thank you for choosing Galebreaker Agri. We're pleased to offer you a 10-year guarantee, full details of which can be found on our website.